Back in the 1930s, Saudi Arabia was broke. No banks, no cars, barely any roads. Then, a small American team drilled into the sand and changed everything. That one well didn't just strike oil, it rewrote global power. But how did a forgotten desert become the world's richest kingdom almost overnight? How did a desert kingdom with no oil, no roads, and no money become the richest nation on Earth? Saudi Arabia in the 1930s is barely a country yet. It's more like a scattered collection of tribes stitched together by one man's charisma and grit. Ibn Saud, the desert warrior who spent 3 decades uniting his people, finally declared a new nation in 1932. But unity doesn't pay bills. The treasury is nearly empty. His main source of income? Pilgrims. Every year, Muslims travel to Mecca and Medina, bringing coins, spices, and gifts. That's it. Some years, droughts or wars cut pilgrim numbers, and the kingdom slips into debt. By 1933, Ibn Saud owed foreign powers more than he earned. He even sells hunting rights to European royals for cash. Then, a rumor starts floating through the royal court. Western explorers believe Arabia's eastern province might hide oil, the same kind that turned Iraq, Iran, and Bahrain into profit machines. Ibn Saud listens carefully. He's skeptical, but desperate. The land is barren, yes, but what if the treasure lies beneath it? British companies show interest but hesitate, demanding control. The king doesn't like their arrogance. So when Standard Oil of California sends a polite delegation offering fairer terms, a 60-year concession across 930,000 square kilometers, Ibn Saud agrees. The Americans pay £35,000 in gold up front and promise yearly royalties. That moment, almost unnoticed, is historic. A desert king with no cars or telephones just handed half his country's land to a company chasing a dream. But would the dream pay off or ruin him? Because for the next 5 years, the desert gives nothing back. When every drill hit dust, why did the Americans keep digging? The Americans arrive with optimism, engineers, and equipment that looks alien to locals. The heat is punishing, 50 degrees Celsius by noon, and even the camels struggle. Their first base is a cluster of tents near Dammam. They named it Camp Jubail. The first well, Dammam number 1, started in 1935. It shows traces of oil but not enough to count. By the time they reach Dammam number 5, frustration is setting in. Drilling rigs sink into sand, pipes burst, and trucks break down on rocky terrain. Millions of dollars vanish into failure. At one point, headquarters in San Francisco considered shutting it all down. But one man refuses to quit. Max Steinecke, the chief geologist. He's a tough Californian with a habit of chewing tobacco and betting on intuition. Steinecke studies rock samples day and night, convinced the oil lies deeper. Everyone else wants to stop. He tells them to drill farther, even when they have no spare parts left. He's not alone. A Bedouin guide named Kamis bin Ramthan, known for his incredible sense of direction, helps map the land. Locals call him the human compass. Together, the unlikely pair push further into the desert, recording strange limestone ridges that Steinecke believes mark ancient seabeds. Perfect traps for oil. By 1937, they're on well number 7, the last chance. If it fails, the company is done, and the king's gamble collapses with it. The drills grind deeper, 1,000 meters, 1,200, 1,400. The pressure rises. Steinecke orders them to keep going. And then, just when everyone's patience breaks, the earth finally answers back. One well, one night, and a nation changed forever. But was it luck or genius? You know how sometimes one decision changes everything? That's exactly what happened in 1938. After 5 years of failure, one man's stubbornness finally paid off. Dammam well. Number 7, everyone called it the last chance well. The Americans had already spent $500,000, a massive sum back then, drilling 6 dry holes. Headquarters in California was ready to cut their losses. But Max Steinecke, that relentless geologist, begged for one more try. He told them, "If we stop now, we'll regret it forever." By early March, the drill reached 1,440 meters deep. The team was exhausted. Then pressure built. Oil started bubbling. Within hours, it wasn't just seeping, it exploded upward. Thick black crude sprayed into the sky. After years of silence, the desert roared. That single well produced 1,585 barrels per day, and within a week, it hit 3,810 barrels daily. They called it the Prosperity Well. And just like that, everything changed. When King Ibn Saud got the news, he didn't celebrate with champagne. He thanked God and ordered the first barrels to be sent to the coast. Even then, he didn't fully grasp the scale of what had happened. But soon he would. Because this wasn't just oil, it was leverage, survival, and power rolled into one discovery. Dammam No. 7 turned the desert into the most valuable real estate on Earth. By 1939, the first tanker, the DG Schofield, left Saudi shores carrying crude oil to the world. The king personally opened the valve with a golden key. People say he smiled quietly, knowing this one moment had rewritten his nation's destiny. But striking oil was only the beginning. Now came a bigger challenge, controlling it. When America built the oil empire, did Saudi Arabia really own its wealth? After the discovery, everything sped up. The Americans from Standard Oil of California, SoCal, formed a local branch called CASOC, the California Arabian Standard Oil Company. They built roads, pipelines, airstrips, and dorms for workers in the desert town of Dammam. What had been a small cluster of tents turned into a thriving base. By 1940, over 3,000 American and Saudi workers were living there. They built schools, hospitals, even cinemas for the Americans. Locals called it Little America. Oil production skyrocketed. By 1945, Saudi Arabia was exporting over 21,000 barrels per day. But here's the twist. Most of the profits didn't stay in Saudi hands. The company kept the lion's share, while the kingdom received modest royalties. It was an unequal partnership dressed up as friendship. The Americans controlled the machinery, the data, and the prices. The Saudis provided the land and got paid, barely. Ibn Saud was grateful but cautious. He knew his nation was still dependent on outsiders, but he was a strategist. When U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt met him aboard the USS Quincy in 1945, the two discussed oil, security, and future cooperation. That handshake sealed a bond, American protection in exchange for steady oil. Still, beneath the politeness, tension brewed. The king wanted sovereignty, not supervision. By 1950, Saudi Arabia began demanding a 50-50 profit split, a bold move that shook the oil world. It worked and inspired other nations to demand the same. The Desert Kingdom was learning fast. The Americans had built the oil machine, but the Saudis were starting to learn how to run it. And once they did, they'd rewrite the rules of global power forever. The desert turns to gold. But what price did the kingdom pay for modernity? It's hard to even picture how fast everything changed. One decade, Saudi Arabia is struggling to feed its people. Next, oil money starts pouring in like a flood. By the early 1950s, the kingdom's income jumped from $10 million a year to more than $200 million. That's not a small raise. That's a transformation. And it wasn't just numbers on paper. The desert started to glow. Roads stretched across dunes that had never seen vehicles before. Dammam, once a dusty camp, became a full-blown industrial hub with power lines, schools, hospitals, even bowling alleys for foreign workers. King Abdulaziz, old now but sharper than ever, used the money to build ministries, universities, and infrastructure. He sent young Saudis abroad to study engineering, geology, and medicine. The oil money became more than wealth. It became identity. But every blessing comes with a shadow. With sudden wealth came sudden friction. Traditional Bedouin tribes struggled to adjust to city life. Religious scholars worried about Western influence, especially in places like Dammam, where American culture, music, fashion, even baseball started blending into local life. The king walked a tightrope, modernize, but without losing the soul of his nation. Even the army and police were restructured to protect oil fields, and politically the world noticed. The U.S. courted Saudi friendship like never before, not just with diplomacy but with deals, airplanes, weapons, and protection guarantees. By 1953, the king died, leaving behind not just a country, but a fortune built on oil. He went from ruling tents to ruling skyscrapers. But beneath all that success, one question quietly echoed. Who truly owned the oil machine now? The Saudis or the Americans who built it? That question would soon explode into history. The day the kingdom took back the wells. After King Abdulaziz's death, his sons inherited not just a throne but a mission: take control. By the 1960s, oil was the lifeblood of Saudi Arabia, but much of the profit still went overseas. Aramco, still largely American-owned, was generating billions, while Saudi Arabia got a fraction. Then came a bold decision. Under King Faisal, the kingdom began pushing for full ownership. They didn't shout or fight, they negotiated. Step by step, the Saudi government bought more shares, increasing its stake from 25% in 1973 to 60% in 1974, and finally 100% in 1980. That was the quiet revolution. The world's biggest oil fields, Ghawar, Abqaiq, Safaniya, all now belong to the Saudis. Overnight, they went from being hosts to being owners. And in 1988, they gave the company a new name: Saudi Aramco. Here's what's wild. Today, Aramco is not just Saudi Arabia's biggest company. It's the most profitable company on earth. In some years, it earns over $100 billion in net profit. Its oil fields pump over 10 million barrels a day, fueling everything from Tokyo to Texas. But this story isn't just about money. It's about how a poor desert nation took back control from global powers, not through war, but through strategy, patience, and timing. And now, decades later, Saudi Arabia sits at the heart of global energy. Every time oil prices rise or fall, the ripple starts there. It's a full circle, from a kingdom begging for loans in 1932 to one that can move world markets with a word. The real question now isn't how they got rich. It's how long the sands can keep giving. Thanks for watching. If you love uncovering the real stories behind power, money, and history's turning points, hit subscribe and stay curious. The past still fuels the present, and our next episode might just change how you see the world.